the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Remember everybody who's in the boat right now for 2026. Who is your favorite non-Faison Brandon player currently in the 2026 class for Tennessee?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Tyreek King fan. I think that's a great system fit. Just an explosive guy. You don't have many of those in state. You know, they've had some good playmakers in state before, but not many that are quite like him. So I think that's a really good fit for Tennessee and definitely one of the more exciting guys in this class. So I like him quite a bit. That's probably the first one that comes to mind. It's a pretty interesting group though so far. I think there's some real upside. CJ Edwards is one that's probably flown under the radar for a lot of people, but is a pretty talented guy. If they end up getting 2 edge rushers in this class, he's going to be the one that probably flies under the radar the most. But his upside is probably as exciting as anyone in that group. And then, you know, probably the bigger name, although rating wise, he's not at the top of the list right now, but Tyson Bacon, his stock has really gone up quite a bit since he committed back in the fall. And he's to the point that Tennessee's gonna have to weather a handful of official visits to other schools. Ohio State just offered recently. So he's a guy whose stock has risen quite a bit since he committed. So I would say he's high on that list too. But yeah, Tyreek King for me personally is probably the one that stands out just because I think wide receivers, that position, Tennessee's not, you know, they've gotten some guys. We'll see this year what they've got in Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. But if there's a position that you'd say they maybe haven't gotten the roster quite where they want just yet, and, you know, maybe this may totally change by the end of the year because we'll see what they've got in Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson. I think those guys, there's reason to be excited about them. But if they can get just the right slot, the right dynamic playmaker guy that can take a 10-yard pass and go to the house with it again, maybe not another Jalen Hyatt type, but someone with at least some of those types of traits. I think that's a big deal for this offense. So I think Tyreek King is pretty exciting for a Tennessee fan.
How is he different? Because Travis Smith, it's obvious like how he's different than Mike and Braylon and some of the other names. Like his catch radius is huge. He's a huge kid. He's more, I feel like, filled out as a true freshman. It just feels like he's in a good spot to contribute, I think, right away. Part of that's numbers, of course, for Tennessee with 7 scholarship guys, but I also just think he's going to push Brazel on that opposite side. And he was also a big name player at Westlake, a powerhouse back in Georgia. And that's one of the things I look at with Mike and Travis specifically, number 1 player in the state of Georgia in back-to-back years at wide receiver coming out of high school. And I think there's a lot of room for growth, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both had really good careers at Tennessee. They just need Braylon Staley to stay healthy is a big thing. Like they need Braylon. Like there's just not the depth behind him. Like Boo Carter's going to get some snaps there, but like Joakim Dodson's not a early enrollee. So maybe Rodarius, who had the catch of the day in the orange and white game, maybe he can play some slot. Maybe that's kind of how you get him on the field earlier.
Well, I wonder if Mike Matthews just goes to the slot if something happens there. That's
interesting.
One possibility. I could see that maybe where you just throw Travis Smith outside with Brazel and Matthews goes in the slot. You've got some options there, but yeah. They maybe need someone from the portal there. That's going to be interesting to see this spring what they do at wide receiver because I think you need another body there. It's just a matter of what do you get. And yeah, maybe Joakim Dodson has to be ready to contribute in a pinch like that in the slot. But yeah, they not a ton of depth there overall. So I think they've got to bring in somebody from the portal. I couldn't imagine going into a season with 7 scholarship receivers. I know it's tough to keep ideal depth at any position these days, but I just think you've got to have somebody else at that position.
I agree. Speaking of receiver, we talked about him at the top here because it feels like forever ago that Tristen Keys just out of nowhere. It felt very random that Tristen Keys committed to LSU, but you also get it. It's like LSU. I mean, it's hard to, outside of Ohio State, there's not anyone with better wide receiver track record in the last 10 to 15 years putting guys in the NFL and stars in the NFL than LSU. But Tennessee.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.